Twenties Fest is taking place at Camp and Furnace on Sunday, the 1st of October 2023. Tickets are now live. Head to www.talk20s.com/20sfest to grab your ticket. And as a special thank you for being a loyal podcast listener, you can use the code podcast10 for 10% off your ticket. It's going to be an incredible day. We're excited to see you there. In order to keep bringing you guys tons of free content, we work with brand partners who you'll hear from in this episode, including an advertisement from Zopa Bank. Welcome back to the Talk Twenties podcast. The cost of living crisis is pretty much consuming our lives at the moment. And my God, don't we know it? Things are so expensive right now. And even things like your weekly food shop seem to cost the earth. So today we've invited the amazing Lauren Leyva, AKA The Starving Student, into the studio to chat about how we can save a ton of money on food, cook some amazing healthy meals, and look after the planet at the same time too. This episode isn't one to miss. Now, before we dive in, a little shout out to you guys, our listeners. We are so grateful for you tuning in every week. And we want to ask you a huge favor. Can you quickly check that you're subscribed or following the podcast? If not, can you please click that button? This is a small, simple action that helps us more than you could ever know. As always, if you want to reach out to us about the topics you want us to cover on the podcast next, you can do so via Instagram DMs or via email, info@talk20s.com. On with the show. Hello, Lauren. Welcome to the Talk Twenties podcast. It is so lovely to have you here. We've just been having coffee or orange juice, and chatting just about what you do for a job as well as what you do on social media as well. So tell us a little bit more about you, because I think you have a fascinating job, and tell us a little bit more about how you got into the social media side of things and what you do.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Sorry, I'm super excited to be here, and as I was saying earlier, I've listened to your podcast way before you even invited me. So Yay! Great to be here. I do have a bit of a strange story. People are often sort of surprised how I can manage it all. But I love telling people because it's quite unusual. So I've trained the past 7 years as an architect. I'm about to qualify, hopefully. So I'm still a trainee architect, working full time. And then I also am studying part time for this final qualification. And then also my sort of second career, I sort of call it a dual career. I don't know if you can. But anyway, my second career is in content creation. And it started all about student food. And now it's gone more into food and budgeting, bit of sustainable lifestyle. And I think driving more towards sort of raising awareness of ethical issues. So,
absolutely. Yeah. You're known as the Starving Student on social media, but you're just about to graduate. So do you think you will change that up? Or?
That's just changed, actually.
Just changed?
Literally just changed, So a couple of days ago, I think I've been thinking about it for a long time. I was always known as the Starving Student, but I think I felt I love the niche of creating content for younger people. But I think firstly, I wanted to increase awareness of just who I am. So changed it to my name, Lauren Leyva, if anyone's on Instagram. and just generally, I think make it look as though it's not just for students, it's for anyone that wants to eat well, be more sustainable, save money. So I think, so the account now is Lauren Leyva.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
We're going to chat a little bit more about your architecture a little bit later on in the podcast, but we wanted to bring you in to talk on the Talk 20s podcast because we're living in a cost of living crisis and food is expensive, so expensive. So for you, I imagine a lot of people are coming to you for ideas, for tips on how to save money when it comes to your food bill right now. What are the current things and themes that you're seeing from people in your comments, in your DMs? Like what are people feeling right now, do you think?
So I'll start you off with a statistic because everyone loves a stat. So on average in the UK per year, the average household wastes about over £700 because of wasted food. And if you follow the tips and advice that I give you, you can honestly save hundreds, if not thousands of pounds a year. So I thought I'd just set that up so that you're aware of sort of what I can offer. But I think overall the comments are generally about how you can create big portions, things that will last a long time using, for example, the same amount of money. And the only reason I bring food waste into that is because by not wasting food, the amount of money you can save is so high, relative to what you're buying, that, I just thought it would be a great thing to talk about. I've got so many tips from before you do your shop to during your shop out in the supermarket. even to after, and what you do with the food that you might need to throw away or that you don't know what to do with. There's loads to talk about. So yeah,
I can't wait to dive in.
Questions.
I absolutely can't wait to dive in, because I think it's one of those really interesting things where everyone has to do it. Everyone has to do a food shop, right? But everyone wants to save money.
Yeah.
Some people have more income or expenditure to be able to spend a little bit more, and that might be based on where you shop or how you shop and all those kinds of things. But if we're starting then from the moment when we're like, the cupboards are empty, I need to get some food in. What are your first best top tips when it comes to that?
Okay, so the first tips before you go on your shop. Firstly, don't go shopping or write a list when you're hungry. Because when you're hungry,
great tip.
When you're hungry,
do all the time.
I don't know if there's any science backing this, but anyway, I'm going to tell you because it's true.
Yeah.
When you're hungry, you will buy more. You'll buy more impulse purchases at the till, especially things that are sugary and, things that will satisfy your cravings. So firstly, don't do that. Secondly, actually check your cupboards. Because like you say, you might think they're empty, but actually you might have 5 kilograms of rice that you've got, you know, in the back. And things like that, people, you get back home and, you've forgotten something and you've bought double of something that you've already got, and then that's going to go to waste. So check your cupboards. Thirdly, what else? Check what leftovers and things you've got in the freezer, because you might find that you've got 4 portions of food that's frozen, ready to eat, and that you don't actually need to buy as much that week. So I'd say, and also write a list, because if you write a list, you go out with a set goal, you know what meals you're going to do. So if you can, alongside this list, meal plan. And I create meal plans as well. So people have all their shopping lists written down for that week. So I'd say they're my main tips for before going on the shop that can really help. Yeah.
It's really random, but in this past year, I've started to write a list of the common things that I buy at the supermarket, because I literally used to, this was very bad, but I used to freestyle supermarket shops. That is not intelligent.
I still do it sometimes.
Sometimes you do, but it's not very intelligent, because I come home with stuff that just doesn't make a meal. And and I also go when I'm hungry. So I'll also come back with loads of this random stuff that definitely won't feed me. And then I find halfway through the week, I'm then having to go and do another shop. And it's just it's genuinely a full-on life hack if you can nail a food shop.
Yeah, completely.
For health reasons, for budget reasons, and for sanity reasons, I think, just to keep yourself sane, because I don't like spending loads of time in the supermarket. I don't think anyone does.
No.
So I've literally written a list of all my regular purchases. And then I go round my kitchen with a highlighter, and I'm like, I need this. Actually, we've got some of those in. I don't need that. And it's basically just a running list of what's usually in our cupboards. And then I usually try and plan. And it sounds like a lot of work, but it saved me hours of time.
Because you know where you're going to go in the supermarket, don't
you?
Yeah.
So for me, that has been a lifesaver. And I think all your tips there are so true.
I have another tip, sorry. Really important one. Consider where you shop. So the supermarkets you might think are cheaper. So we have a super cheap one nearby. I think it's actually an Asda. I don't know if I can talk about brands here, but anyway,
you can say brands.
It's an Asda nearby, and really great value. I've never shopped at Asda just because it's never been nearby where I've lived. So we've got an Asda nearby where I am, and then there's a Morrison's, but it's a drive away, so we can't go there. But actually, even though a delivery charge is £1.50 or whatever, the things that we can get from Morrison's and Asda between them, you can get them cheaper, and there are different things that you want. So as well as that, there are places that do reward cards. So I'm sure you know Tesco Club Card, Lidl Plus. I use Lidl Plus when I was back in Nottingham all the time. And I got £5 off coupons, probably, I don't know, every month or so. And that was great. Made it cheaper. And it's all these little things really do help. A lot of people sort of fob them off because, it's, I'm only saving £2. But if you add £2 and another few pounds and then times it by every single week of the year, you don't know how much you could be saving. So
do you think it's better to do an order shop and get it delivered to you? Or do you think it's better to go to the supermarket yourself for saving money?
Oh, for saving money.
Yeah.
I would say for saving money to go to the shop, to physically go to the shop.
Okay.
Might be different if you're driving a long way because maybe you've got to consider petrol, blah, blah, blah. But yes, I've always saved more money, I think, when I go to the shop, because I always typically went to the shop in the evening, where there were reduced items. The clearance section was there, and there'd be so much amazing stuff. And a lot of fresh food was there as well. In Lidl as well, right at the end, which is quite cheeky, they put it at the end, there were these huge boxes of root veg, so like potatoes and carrots and swede and things like that. Huge boxes for like £1.50. And what they do, they put it so you see it after you've paid for your shop. So if you've got a Lidl nearby you, that might just be, and I don't know, but it's these huge boxes of vegetables, which probably cost maybe like £7-8 if you buy them individually. So yeah, if you're in a Lidl, don't know if it's just Lidl, have a little cheeky look at the end, see if they've got those big boxes, because maybe in your local one there is. So yeah, that's a good tip.
See, actually, I was going to say that I've only recently started getting like deliveries just because I'm running out of time with the planning of like 20s Fest and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm like, I've started to get deliveries in for time saving purposes, but I think I'm spending much less money. And that's because when I like am walking around the supermarket, I put that in, I put that in, I put that in. I never get to the till and go, actually, I don't need that, I don't need that. Because that's like, who leaves loads of stuff on the side of the thing? You're a bad person if you do that. Yeah. I'm joking, you're not. But do you know what I mean? I don't want to be that person. Who's like literally like, who's left those like 5 items there? Because Anyway, some people need to do it, obviously. But when you do that at home, I can go down my list and go, actually, I don't think I'll eat that this week and I can bin it. And I literally just go through and I've literally knocked off like 10, 12 quid sometimes, because I'm going, well, we don't actually really need that if I'm looking at everything else I'm purchasing. But I don't do that when I've got it all in my basket, because I'm a little bit like, well, if I need to go and put that back, I've got to go right the way over the other side of the supermarket.
For 5 seconds.
So I think there's like, different ways you can save money.
I think it's the same. I mean, there's not going to be one answer, is that? And I do agree. Me and my boyfriend now, we purely because we're both so busy, like especially me with like basically 2 jobs and studying. That's why we've now opted for the deliveries. Because we'd have to cycle there as well. We'd have to cycle to the shop and bring it back, and like, I just can't be asked to do that, to be honest. With like kilos of food. So now we do that. And actually, we literally ordered one last night, and we actually did knock off some things that we didn't need. So maybe you're right.
So I must have been something in the water. But I do think that there's different ways you can save. Like you save from getting all the reduced stuff when you go in. But then there's other ways you can save by just being a bit more mindful of like what you've got in your basket and what you actually don't really need to eat. Because I was thinking like, if I get that, it will probably go off, and then it's food waste.
Exactly.
Like, so let's talk a little bit more about food waste then, because I think you have so many good tips on how to avoid wasting food and how to be smart and savvy, because essentially if you're low waste, you're low budget, right?
Exactly.
You save
or
money.
Lower budget. So if I go back to there is a global issue of food poverty, and I think although my content is it's very domestic, it's in my house, you know, you see it on a very sort of individual level. What I want to be able to do with my content in the future is really raise awareness of this global issue. So food poverty is, as a definition, don't know exactly what it is, but as far as I'm aware, it's when someone can't access a good quality and quantity of food within sort of socially acceptable means, which was like going to the supermarket, for example. So that's what food poverty is. And then in terms of waste, 40% of global food is wasted, whether that's in the production of it or after.
40%?
Yeah, 40%. And what's even more sort of saddening is that of that waste, 70% is due to household waste. So it's not due to commercial and retail waste. Whoa. It's due to our own homes. So I was shocked when I sort of did a bit of research into that. And some of my clients are those that work within food waste and waste management, and they're brands that really care about this. So it's a shame that although people say, oh yeah, you know, if we make changes on a small level, like it's not really going to have an impact. It's the government that need to like change. Yeah, like I get that. But actually, when you're looking at stats like that, frankly, like these are households. These are like me and you in our kitchen throwing away food. So we can go into sort of the food, the most popular foods that are wasted and things like that. But the amount of, so the average household, I think I said at the start, the average household wastes over £700 a year on food waste. So that's insane. Like for some people, that's a huge chunk of maybe a house deposit. Like, and this is food that's going down the drain. So another interesting fact is that if all global food was not wasted, those that are chronically malnourished could receive 10 meals a day every day. So that's insane.
Yeah.
So like why are people like it's making me a bit sort of emotional.
Disproportionately given to people. Like people don't realize how lucky they are to be able to throw away food.
Completely. And you know, I'm guilty for it as well. I'm by no means perfect. Like yesterday, like my boyfriend showed me a lettuce and I was like, oh my God, that lettuce bitch has been in the back of the fridge. Like, it's the whole thing's rotten. And I was like, you know, is it just the outside that's rotten? And he was like, Lauren, the whole thing's mush. And I was like, right, it's going to have to go in the bin. So, you know, like I'm not perfect and I'm someone that's trying to raise awareness of it. So, you know, I think there's some facts I think a lot of people could relate to.
When you step into your 20s, some of the biggest struggles our listeners share with us are money orientated. We know it's hard sometimes to find your feet in regards to money when big life changes happen. Maybe you're leaving uni, moving out, moving cities, starting a new job, getting married, making career changes, starting businesses. These big life moments can be expensive. And that's why we've teamed up with our sponsors, Zopa Bank, to open up more conversations around money. To us, it's really important that we talk more openly with our friends and close network about how money impacts our lives. So let's stop brushing this under the carpet and start opening up. Thank you, Zopa, for supporting us on this mission. You can find out more about Zopa by downloading their app. There's always the lettuce as well. It's always the lettuce.
Always the lettuce. So yeah. So if people want to know, I mean, I think everyone will know because they are the most popular food to be wasted. So what's the things that were you waste in your household?
And you just said lettuce, and it is always that. Like I've been better. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to eat more greens and stuff like that. But it's always the lettuce, the cucumbers. Yeah. Like it is always the fruit and veg and stuff like that kind of just goes straight.
So
away,
within household waste, nearly 30% of that waste is fresh fruit and vegetables. And you can see why. It's because we're all trying to be healthy. We're trying to buy fresh fruit and vegetables. But unfortunately, it's the things that aren't preserved. They're not in tins. They're not frozen. Like that is what freezing and, you know, tinned food is. It's preserved for a long time. And even like pickles, like vinegar and salt, they preserve food for years.
Yeah.
So it's hard when you're constantly being told, go get some fresh food, make some delicious meals, because you have these other impacts. So yeah, the foods that we tend to waste
and often they can be quite expensive as well. Like, you know, like if you want like fresh strawberries rather than frozen strawberries, you're obviously going to be paying more for those fresh strawberries as well.
Yeah, completely. But yeah, the foods that we tend to waste most, I believe the top wasted food is potatoes. And then
they start growing the sprouts.
Yeah, or go squidgy and rotten. Anyway, and then it's things like carrots and onions, bread. Milk actually is up there with potatoes. Milk, apparently, I don't understand because my milk always goes. I never have enough of it. Yeah. So, well, it's oat milk. But so yeah, so there's some of the top ones. And then, yeah, you basically go into apples, bananas, your lettuce. So it's all the fresh fruit and vegetables. So I think a lot of this is tailored towards trying to reduce the waste of those things. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
It's a good way to reduce banana waste, making banana bread, because I did that at the weekend.
Yeah, I posted a recipe for banana cake and it always does really well. And I can't tell you, my recipe it is very good. It's a delicious banana cake
your recipe. Yeah.
But it's not a banana bread. It's not sort of the healthy version. It is a cake. But yeah, I mean, even things like that, like if you don't want to eat a whole cake, like give some to your work friends.
I gave some to my neighbour because he looks after my dog.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's nice. Yeah. So there are ways, but people just have to put the effort in. Like you can't achieve anything without a bit of effort. That goes for anything like studying, making a relationship work, food waste as well. Yeah. So yeah, it's about putting a bit of effort in. Yeah.
Absolutely. So when it comes then to actually going out and doing your shop, what are the things you should be looking for in the supermarkets?
Okay, so I've got some really good tips, some that a lot of people don't know. So the biggest tip I would say is for everything that you buy, don't look at the price. Don't look at the big price that's glaring at your face. Look at the price per 100 grams or price per unit, because you'll be shocked to know which ones are cheaper. So something that typically a lot of people think is a small bag of rice is less value for money than a big bag. And yeah, a lot of things are. But actually, if you look at the price per 100 grams, sometimes the big bag of rice is actually more expensive per 100 grams or per unit. So if you're getting like toilet paper, it might be like 10p per roll, or like 15p per roll. And I know these are tiny differences, but if you add it up on every shop throughout the whole year, you don't know how much you could be saving, hundreds maybe. So that's the first tip. The second tip is branded versus non-branded items. So I don't really have any brands that I, get absolutely every single time. maybe a cleaning product or two, because I really like the sort of more sustainable ones that are sort of a bit more chemical free. However, look at the lower shelves. The lower shelves are the ones that are cheaper per 100 grams or per unit or whatever. The ones at your eye level are the ones that the supermarket want you to buy. They want you to buy that one. Whatever it is, Heinz beans or, And fair enough, if you want your branded item, absolutely go for it. But for the people that do want to save more, look at the lower shelves, because quite often the branded and the non-branded items, they're made in the same factory and they just have a different label on. Yeah. This doesn't go for everything. Yeah. It's the same as clothing. Clothes can often be made in the same factory, and then you stick a, I don't know, whatever logo on it, and wow, it's like £200 instead of like 20 quid. Mm-hmm. So just think about these things. That's another one. Third tip, looking at the world food aisle for your more unusual ingredients rather than looking at the branded versions of them. So I'm not going to drop Blue Dragon in there because I don't like them. I think Blue Dragon are a great brand, but Blue Dragon do like sweet chili. Mm-hmm. They do a little pot of it, which is great for people that don't have much space. Yeah. So fair enough. If you haven't got space, go for it. But there is a huge bottle in, I think it was Tesco I used to shop, of sweet chili sauce, and I can't remember the brand. It's in the world food aisle, and the value for money is insane, the difference. So have a look in the world food aisle next time. If you don't know what the ingredients are, ask someone, see what you could get that's similar. This goes for, snacks, like if it's poppadoms or whatever it is, to sauces, to rice. So, and spices. Spices are a big one that are really expensive in those little jars. Yeah. So you can get big packs of them, and then you can just refill your own little jars at home. So the world food outlet is great. God, what's another tip? Gosh, there's so many.
There's so many. But I'm never going to shop the same way again after this conversation.
I mean, these are just a few small tips, but I think you have to put all of these tips into practice, because frankly, like, I could save you hundreds or thousands of pounds worth of money, over the course of years or whatever. But you have to not only listen to the advice, but you have to actually put the effort and do it. You have to actually sort of, put it into practice. That goes for any advice, doesn't it? You're not going to change if you don't do it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think there off the top of my head, bulk buying can also be good. Bulk buying dry foods, but again, check price per 100 grams or price per unit.
What's your view on things like Costco?
Oh, okay. So Costco, I've never shopped there. I believe you have to be a member.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
You have to be a member, and then you can get things like wholesale.
Yeah,
is that a thing?
Yeah.
So I actually watched a documentary, a really short documentary. I can't remember what it's on. A few weeks ago on it.
Yeah, I watched it too. Randomly when I was eating my lunch one day.
I think I randomly watched it as well. Yeah. But I think actually what came out of it is that one or two things were great value for money, but actually most things weren't. I think that's what I got from it. And frankly, I think most people don't have the space. And a lot of the documentary about Costco, it was showing people who were just storing
like hoarders,
piles of stuff in their lounge, and if
and thinking that that was good saving money and stuff.
So I personally don't believe in Costco. I've never been part of it. I probably never will. I think be careful in other ways, and I just don't have space. Don't have space for like 100 loo rolls and whatever it is.
We went not so long ago, me and my fiance, and he bought, like, he has sugar in his tea, right? Yeah. So we bought a massive tray. I don't know why we did this, of just like bags of sugar that are like 1 kilo bags. There must be about 20 bags. Oh my god! But like, I don't know why we did that, because he's only got through like 3. So he was like, I'm gonna be eating this tray of sugar for like the next 10 years of my life. And I feel really bad, because again, the food waste, like that was, at the time we thought, that'll be good. But realistically, we didn't need to do that. It's storing up space. So if anyone wants any sugar from this really poor decision that we made, hit me up, because I can provide that for everyone.
20 kilograms of sugar.
It was stupid. Like, and obviously he thinks he has a lot because he has it in his tea. So he's like, but like, we don't actually go through that much, because I don't have. It's like a teaspoon. Gosh, so silly decision, but we won't do that again.
No. Crazy. Yeah. Blimey.
Yeah. So when it comes to then obviously getting your food shop home, you're starting to prepare and cook. Like, is there any key tips you've got for like pulling together meals, meal plans, all those kind of things?
Absolutely. So one of the big ones that actually, going back to when my account started to grow more. So I went from a couple of thousand, maybe like 2,000 followers over COVID. COVID took it up to 18,000, something like that. And the main thing that people really liked was how I used the same amount of money, but to really extend how many meals I could make and the batches and how nice the meals were as well. So this was using store-cupboard ingredients that didn't go off. Therefore, you weren't wasting food. Therefore, you save you more money. So big tips are you can, firstly, if you buy meat, so we can go on to sustainability actually after, because that's quite interesting points. But yeah, if you have something like meat and it's, that's almost like the most valuable part of the dish, isn't it? It's the most expensive. So firstly, divide that up into your 4 portions, or your 6 portions that you're going to make. Then bulk out the dish with things that are more filling. So that could be rice, potatoes, beans, lentils, just vegetables in general, things that are sort of, high protein or, they've got some substance that make you feel full. By doing that, so like in a chili, in like a hot pot chili sort of thing, that's a really good way of doing it. Another way of extending meals is actually making soups. So soups, a lot of people don't like them, which is fair enough. But for me, I get full on a portion of soup that takes up a lot less food than a meal that looks the same amount. So soups are really great for that. And then the other thing is, not when you're preparing the food, but when you're eating the food, don't overserve portions, because I can't remember, out of the people that there was, I can't remember, all these stats are from reputable sources that I've sort of looked up. And one of the main reasons why people waste food was because of oversized portions, and they have that bit left on their plate, and that goes in the bin. So what I do, if I have leftover like bread or things that I think the birds could eat, I put it outside for the birds, because it's a form of waste, but actually, at least some animal can use it rather than it going in the bin, go to landfill. Or if you can, if it's just you and your partner, can you scrape it together and just have it as a little snack later on? Can you have it the next day? And if you don't want to do that, just serve yourself a smaller portion, because you can always have more, but you don't really want to put it back, do you, after? No, so yeah, these things will save you money. They're little tips, but they will save you money.
Absolutely. One of the things that I want to chat about is like veg and how to do that well. Like, because you always say don't peel your veg.
Yeah.
In terms of that, why would you say that? Like,
so I know I used to do it when I was younger, but peeling your veg, firstly, there are nutrients in the skins of vegetables that aren't in the flesh. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I think some vegetables have more fiber in the skin. So firstly, don't peel it because of that. Secondly, don't peel it. Obviously, if it's something like a banana, you're probably not going to eat the peel. But if it's something like a potato or carrots or even butternut squash, where the skin it feels quite tough, actually, if you roast it or if you boil it and then blend it into a soup, it disappears or it softens or it adds a nice texture depending on how you're doing it. So I recently made like a butternut squash salad, and the whole point is that it was a zero waste butternut squash salad. It had other things like feta and salad leaves. But the whole point that I wanted to get across is that when you're roasting this beautiful butternut squash, the skin, it softens down enough that it's not going to be a horrible, really tough texture. Yeah. So there are ways with different foods that you can do that, so you don't have to peel it. Obviously, there are some that you're not going to eat, but yeah.
Apparently, 30% of fruit and veg doesn't make it to the supermarkets for aesthetic reasons. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah. So this is probably otherwise known as wonky veg. I don't know if you've heard the phrase. So wonky veg, when I go shopping, I look for the wonky veg because it's always like half the price. It's always cheaper and it's literally the same food. So unless you're, for whatever reason that you need a beautiful aesthetic plate, fine. But I think now we're coming to sort of a generation, an era where we understand that wonky veg is not a problem. Like we don't want that wasted. Like, bring it to the supermarkets and sell it to us. Just sell it. If you're going to sell it cheaper, sell it. Fine. But yeah, it's there's a Japanese. Is it wabi sabi? I think wabi sabi it's a Japanese principle that refers to this. That you should not be undervaluing things that are imperfect. So that goes for the wonky veg. So don't undervalue it 100%. Because it's a bit wonky.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more about kind of the global food poverty issues that we see going on today. Like, apart from looking after, what we do in our house, how can we help the rest of the world in terms of the global food poverty issues that are going on?
So it's hard to immediately say how we as an individual can obviously help a global issue straight away, like directly. But I think firstly, understanding that food poverty, it's not just something that someone might typically think is in lower economically developed countries. You know, people immediately think places like Africa and India. And sure, it definitely happens there and it happens more. However, it's also an issue that happens here in the UK. And not just in the poorer neighbourhoods. It also happens in, middle class places as well. And I've been I'm a middle class girl. That's how I've been brought up. But I want to find out more about, how it's impacting other people. So there's a stat where it's about 12% of kids, so roughly 1 in 10 in the UK is in food poverty. But then if you narrow down that group and look at just the poorer households that bring in a lower income, that figure rises to 1 in 5 children. And that's so sad. And I think this is not an issue that just looks at the physical malnourishment. This is something that affects children mentally. And I'm getting goosebumps now. I'm going to get sad. But so it's people like Marcus Rashford. I don't know if you know, he's a footballer. I don't know much about football. I've seen it, but I don't know much. But anyway, what I really like about him is he has, I believe he grew up with a similar issue, and he now works with companies and campaigns for bringing children that are in that situation free food and free meals, I think. I'm not sure if it's through schools or through other places.
I think one of the biggest problems is that when it's the summer holidays, some of the, more disadvantaged people, young people in schools, they might get their free school meals if they're entitled to them in school.
Yeah.
When it comes to summer holidays, if there's no food in the fridge at home, then that problem, who's helping them? And that's 6 weeks or 5-6 weeks of young people going without food, and that's just not okay.
And I mean, that's it, isn't it? And parents will go, I've seen documentaries where parents will go without food, or they'll pretend that they're not hungry just to give their kids some food. Or there are times when I've seen documentaries where children saying, "Oh, can I have that lollipop?" And the parents really struggling to say yes because they can't afford £1 more spent on that per week. I've been so lucky. I've never experienced any of this, but I had friends in primary school, and I still remember to this day who they were, and I still remember the free school meal kids getting called up first, and that was sad that they were separated like that. I don't know if it's different now, but I think we've got to think about it, not just on the physical malnourishment that food poverty brings, but that there are so many other sort of impacts, culturally and mentally. My dream would be to do a huge campaign with someone like Marcus Rashford, as someone that's really powerful, and have me as someone that's, from a completely different background, but working together to raise awareness of this issue. So yeah, it's really sad. But I think, conversations like this, your podcast being able to, bring on people that talk about issues like this, I think is great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we need to do all our bit to kind of look out for other people, because once you get to your 20s, those problems don't really go away.
Yeah.
You then have the burden on yourself because you're then the breadwinner, or you have to create your, you have to pay your own rent. You have to do all of this. Those problems then persist on into adulthood, and it's probably in your 20s that you really start to struggle. So I'm really glad that you've come on the podcast to talk about this, because I think all of us can be doing better with our food budget, cost of living crisis or not.
Yeah.
So Lauren, I've absolutely loved chatting to you about what we can do in terms of low waste and saving on food. But I'd love to chat to you a little bit more about your 20s. So you are an architect, and
trainee
architect. Sorry, trainee architect.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that there was such a long process to doing that. 7 years, right?
Yes, that's the minimum. So most people, I think the average is 10 years. It's a 3-year undergraduate, typically 1 year out. A lot of people do 2 or 3 years out. I just did 1, then back for a 2-year master's, out again for a year out. And then in that year out that I'm sort of in now, although it's a permanent job, I'm doing my final qualification, so I'm studying part-time as well.
That's a lot.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
Absolutely ridiculous. And I think one of the things we chatted about before we on a call is I assumed that probably much like a doctor, right? That you've done all of this years and years of qualifications, that it's worth it because you must get a great big wage when you get to the end of that. Yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the reality then in terms of the architecture world?
The reality is, okay, it's not going to go for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is your reputation is in line with those that are doctors and lawyers and engineers, which it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But in my journey and all of my friends' journey, really, even those that go to London, to Edinburgh, wherever we are, the salary is significantly lower than we expect.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that is just how it is. And, you know, the companies, they'll offer salaries in line with what the benchmark is, but it's that the benchmark is low.
Yeah.
The benchmark does not go up with inflation. The benchmark does not go up with... They say it does go up with experience and things like that, but actually when you have the discussion, I think it's much harder to sort of get what you think you're owed.
Mm-hmm.
But this is by no means against the company I'm at. Like, I love the company I'm at. They're so supportive and so flexible. It's not at any other company. It's about the whole system. It's about the whole system. And the same thing's happening with doctors, like, you know, all these strikes.
I think a lot of industries are finding this at this moment in time. And I think that's why we then have to have the whole food waste, save money in your shop conversation, because completely. We're all like, I definitely thought I would get paid more to do what I'm doing because I don't know how to make ends meet. I think that's true of so many careers right now. And it's probably a realization that when you get to your 20 years, like, oh, wait, the maths doesn't add up.
Yeah. Hence why content creation. Thank God I started this years ago and I've been able to, you know, do things like this with you now.
Yeah.
Because it's not offering me, it's not like I'm leaving architecture to do this. By no means. I'm still figuring out what I'm going to do. God knows what I'm going to do, you know.
Aren't we all?
20s crisis. But it's offering me something that I can do on the side and a route that I can carve out myself. I'm not following... The thing that I no longer look at following just a profession's route. I'm looking at like the skills I can gain and how I can carve my own route. So I think looking at that is like a really cool, really fun and cool way to, I don't know, see what I could do in the future.
I love that. Well, it's been absolutely amazing to have you on the podcast. I've got so many tips from this. Like I said, I'm never going to shop this way ever again. Like I'm going to change the way I do things. And I can't wait to get home just to tell like my fiance, like, we're doing this from now on. Like, so hopefully loads of people will have felt the same. And if you guys have enjoyed this episode, please do share it with a friend, share it with your other half, share it with whoever you feel like might benefit from it. Share it with everyone. And don't forget to subscribe and follow the podcast as well, of course. But Lauren, we always end the podcast by asking the same question to every single one of our guests. And it's if you could look back at 20-year-old Lauren and give her just one piece of advice, what would you want to say to her?
So I think the one piece of advice that keeps me motivated is don't compare. Because I think there's a quote, I think it's Roosevelt, can't believe I'm quoting Roosevelt here, but I think it was Theodore Roosevelt who said that comparison is the thief of joy. I think the thief of joy. And that is, it's so important. So like throughout A-levels and university, whenever we get grades back, just as an example, whenever we get grades back, I never go to someone, oh yeah, like I got this, like what did you get? Or like, how did you do? Like I wait for someone to ask me because then I have to have the conversation. I hate comparison. After every exam, I'll walk out, won't say anything, I'll go do something else. I think comparison is so detrimental to just your happiness. And there are people that I've followed my university's career with, we're in the similar jobs, all that, live in the same area, all that. I don't compare myself with them because my goals are completely different. And there are things I want to do in content creation, there are things I want to do in media, campaigns, all these other things. There are also things I want to do in design, in architecture, in property. And I'm just excited to see what those two journeys bring me. So don't compare, carve your own routes. Don't don't follow the trends, don't follow the sheep.
Yeah, it is amazing to see you do that as well because you're basically kind of doing two. It's a very different thing. You obviously got the architecture side of things and then you've got this whole creative side and campaigning side, which I think you're doing a fabulous job of as well. Thank you. I can't wait to see your journey. And just congratulations on everything that you're doing and thank you for all the wisdom and wise words you've shared with us today.
Thank you very much. I've loved it being here.
Amazing.